Namdo Duru zirge zaje de bamer lenge de shara ninde jege nawe de shara ninde nawe jege de tobjo denge drubla cha de no Tsero gendo zije daniele tauge zame jage yonzon de jancho nimbe lamge karma miche debe jiyo zodo ni ome jege yenge moro no dodo danje genge ngo ni ronzon je goro ngonzon denge tawe lame jabla nge chan so do lo no je lo ju do do sim je tham je lo che so do re jing ge lab do che lam do do re jing ge lab do lam chul ba de lo re jing ge lab do chul ba yi je so che ro re jing ge lab do Le Gunge Jadon, Shinda, the Damje, Namga, Leja, Jiggy, Chinme, Jebara, John, Yoroji. Tangmala, Tashi Deli, Tamaji Yunin, Tashi Deli, Shuyatan, Chapchik, the Semjen Tamjig. Dendo zobe sangji gi go bang to go ye ti che de che ning gi ye nyam be sam ba ja che wa chang jo sim gi ge no ngan no dang ne sen ra ji sha.
Trashidele, everyone, long time no see, and please listen the Dharma with vast motivation of bodhicitta, thinking that I would like to become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Tene da nga so che she ge le rem de do zang le na la da liu ngap chung a ji to ti na ne da liu dang bo pe na sok tem be liu di tene de ring tamare da tene de mo tu ne je.
So the teaching we are going to work on it today is Sam, the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, and it has 51 chapters. Out of 51 chapters, we are still on the first chapter. And first chapter is called the chapter of presenting various metaphors. And it has 6 different histories. And today we are at the very end, the 6th one, or the last histories.
Chomden de Shenyang, Ngen Debi Kalba, Tse Machi, Tang Machi Bi, Parana, Zambu Lingdo, Jelbo Shibi, Shikiwa Shik Chungde, Sida Jebo Shibi Sajanji, Jungbares. Jelbo di Shubi Potang ni Dewata Shiki de Potangi Sena, Dewata Sing. Dela ne ta chorba dang dene dewa dang lo lekba dang longje bakdo machi ba dang temba ke dene jegap chi ge imbare de chena jelbo de zambuling de la wang ze de jelten jeti sidong da 제가 총한 시리즈는 종내 동탁 죽지 낭나 종세대다 벤제를 나대가대 되는데 딩상도 나가대가대 동탁 죽지 낭나 동계를 퇴적 제주 더 동계에서 타운 되는 네 제주당 퇴적 제주당 준모당 포장길래 동탁 니슈 jelbu ngaja zamdang lembo chenbo tongtao chungawala wang zede tamjela jambadang ningje machaba medo jelo de pe ningje chambadang.
So as I think you remember that this is all talking about the previous lives of Buddha, And actually, Buddha was, at this point, Buddha was being informed by the devas of Brahma realm. So, to continue the sixth history, again, the devas from the Brahma realm said to the Buddha, Bhagavan, again, in the past, beyond innumerable and countless aeons, there was a king called Shivi. And the palace in which he lived, or this king lived, was called Devavarda, and there was happiness, riches, good harvest, and immeasurable enjoyment. Basically, everything was perfect in his kingdom. And at that time, the king who was called Shivi was ruling this Jambudvipa, and he had 84,000 sub-kingdoms, which means the little kingdoms under him. He had a big kingdom, and then Gyal 10 in Tibetan, which means 10 is little bit and Gyal is kingdom. So I just translate as sub-kingdoms. 84,000 sub-kingdoms, and there was 800,000 cities in 60,000 provinces. There was 20,000 in total of queens and their retinues in the palace. And there was about 500 princes, 10,000 great ministers, and there was no one who was not touched by his love and compassion. So basically, this king, who was called Shivi, was a very compassionate, and his compassion and loving kindness prevailed, or pervaded all over the subject.
대체나 자진 하이 왕보 류기 연된다 나당 될데 체 뒤지도 니외 신도 미가데 냥엔 제바 다 데네기 갑질라 데네 하이 왕보 자진디 데네 콜 치데 다콜기 다 강소 하유기 체디 종네 데네 하유네 체포를 말해 체포는데 치대 나중이로 치대 나중을 때네 되네 류기 연대 나당들 류기는 편절 하유 치대가 은체 류러 디마도 물나 잔이 중에 매버다 치대 된데 되네 류러 물도 디마 차거든 되네 은체 매도게 팀어디 나면 닝바차야 매바 되는 치대는데 매도게 되면 닝바차야 되네요 준도 하이 땐라 되네 되닝 매도바 매바 자와네 매리나 치대래도 되네 땐 강라 되닝 매도바 도보다 되네 류기 동독 카독 냠발라서 보다 된데기 하이 치대가 중네 되네 고 셈메가네 되버려서 냥엔 제바 비셔가르메 동네 다다나가도 소 비셔가르면서 이제 여러 디 이제 현재 당응에마 도지된라 좀 된데 구 당보 신긴데 다소 비셔가르면 비셔가르메 동네 자진라 지레도 냥엔 제징 미게 셰솔라당 되네 자진라 체 가르제네 투 미니바 미게바 차버레 되네 디오레스 자진gem레바 나니 체 뒤지도 녜데 당아시린 바레스 체포의 땡만도 중나 체 사이 치대 나디다 중사원에서 너무 중나 직된들 상제기 최니 노바르 줄데 장조선바야 직된나 미슈나 되는 상제네 냥엘에 대해서는 매 되는 상제기 최양 높차네 매 대낭신기 최종의 장조선바야 매 대인들 코강을 접수도와 미시베 양인 제도 디는가 더 잡내 술을 제거를 잡내 술을 처거래서네 마셔바디 양인 셈라 동엘 보기도 세네라는 Bisha karme mreba lai wangbo zambo linga jalbo chimbo jangjo sembi jeba jeba shibi shegiwa shi shukde shindu yidamla tenshin zundu zombe den misawa ngonbar chang jade dela japso songna den misawa pungindu jurde kegle nambar tarwa juro sem 다 이나야 단다 잠볼리나 테네 소 비셔가메 가릴라 바르나 잠볼리나 제알보 첨보 장조선비 제바 죄켄 제발라 네바 제보 시비스긴지 요레 슈요레세 테네 신도네 이담 템바 다셈 담야 템바 준주 첨보 준주 좀바 요리 대인장 공음 족보 상지기 고본 톱기래 거기 상지기래 대인데 대라 잡수 송나 된 미소를 디 라이원바 케기 봉년도 주르데 케기 셈기 둥을 게글레 넘버 타와 주르래 세네 되네 라이원바 제잖아 소 비셔가면 되네 슈번
So at that time, Indra, the king of the Deva realm, was very unhappy because he was becoming separated from the physical 5 qualities, which means he was about to die, which means the lifespan of Deva realm was about to exhausted. So usually there are 5 signs that the gods are approaching their death. So it appeared to him, and he was very unhappy. Of course, we usually call the sign of transmigration. Transmigration, such as usually these devas never had any sweat and dirty body in their body. But when they start to have sweat and dirt or become dirty, that is a sign of their death. And also usually the flower garland, the flower ornament never get old. But when the flower that they have as an ornament on their body start getting old, that is another sign of their death. And then usually they are never unhappy to sit on their seat. And then at a time they become unhappy to sit on their seat. And that is another sign of their death. And also they become less magnificent. The color of body change and fade and so forth. So anyway, the Indra, the king of God, was very unhappy because he witnessed his sign of death. And then Vishwakarma is we usually say the artist of the Deva realm, who actually built the Buddha Shakyamuni statue, which is at Bodh Gaya right now. And Vishwakarma saw the Indra very unhappy. Then asked him the reason, why are you so unhappy? And the Indra replied to Vishwakarma. Actually, I have translated. I read this. Okay. At that time, Vishwakarma saw Indra, the king of Deva, very unhappy and going through sufferings as he was becoming separated from his 5 physical qualities and approaching death. Vishwakarma asked Indra, why are you so unhappy and going through so much suffering? Indra answered, the signs of my transmigration have become manifest, and I am approaching death. But the Dharma of Buddha has already disappeared from the world, and there is no Bodhisattva residing in the world. I, therefore, don't know where to go for refuge. So I am very unhappy and I am worried. That's what Indra told to the Vishwakarma. And at that time, Vishwakarma again said to the Indra, he says, Lord of God, Lord of God, God, not Lord of God, Lord, Lord, Lord of God. Tlayu Ongpo in Tibetan, so I translate Lord of God. There lives a great king in the Jambudvipa who is called Shivi, and he practiced the conduct of Bodhisattva. He will be enlightened without any doubt because he is extremely determined and very diligent. Therefore, he will be your protector without any doubt if you take refuge in him, and you will be completely free from the obstacles. So, as I said earlier, a king called a Bodhisattva king called Shivi was ruling the Jambudvipa, and Indra was approaching his death in Devarium, and then Vishwakarma told Indra that a king called Shivi, a Bodhisattva king Shivi in Jambudvipa, if you take refuge in him, you will be free from your obstacle. That's all. Shivi. Shajugu Bajugu B. Yeah. That's in Tibetan. Shajugu Bajugu B. So I just put SHIVI. Okay. Yeah.
Tene jajingi mreba, tene jajingi tigido te takdari kalde changjo semba yinna ngarar gam gegi sedu dongo se ta changjo semba ngone reduga mindoga tene gam senada 최다 제거로 최다 제거래 디인데 tene ngani di ko changjo semba reduga mindoga tene tak지당가 최다 제거 쪽에 인세네 라바레세 케기니 포그런신도 식도 줄지 나네 타식도 줄래 족발 케기 치신도 온기 되네 저랑 포그런직도 줄네 되네 푸른 남라 푸른 나네 타식도 줄네 되네 저랑 대용기 있으는 제일보디 강나 슈바로 송라 잡전네 갑디 대주여담 덴버톡벌 주로 되네 저랑 네 대용도 저랑 제복이 틀어도네 되네 제복을 잡 처거래 되네 되네 뭐마 되네 제복이 장에서 말해도 면도가 셰투그래 되네 원부 제진기 되네 라발 비제가면 또 봐요 비샤카르메 메바 다 비샤카르메 가르르면 하이 왕보 깨부 침보 장조 sembal라 채와니 미시 최비리기 신도 가위 뭐 디다부 제위 메릭소세 다 데니 비샤카르메 가르르면 장조 semba 데니 알라 데니 건조 최바당 꾸르디 제리바레 마도 채와당 네바제 미리바레 세넬라분들 메리도 셰메바당 자진 하이 왕부 식수제바디 메조 데넬 하이 왕부 자진기 식제디 랍 서레즘 다음에 말라 겐세민 다 장주 선바들라 되네 겐심제네 되네 강소 네바제기 메진세레 세르다르 센낭은 바로 주르 세르낭신 딱제 당나 되네 약도 가리 멍은 바로 주르게 셰도 그래 덴바 똑바로 되바나 덴바 레다 마리 셰도 예장 장주 선바 세바르자 되네 되네 장주 선바들라 딱제당 강조 제바제 초기래 선생 하용마진되는 책수 제바 되게 제문에 비샤카르마네 푸그런도 줄 저진네 타루 줄네 푸그런기 치신도 대대 숭라 독바 다르 제바당 푸그런 짝바당 낭바네 제르 천공도 쇼데 제르볼라 속에 잡솔도 제베 천공난 되네 잡 제볼라 잡 졸와르 타양 멜라 친데 포장기 중 강나와 데르 독네 제르볼라 되게 제메소 타양 되네 제 볼루인기 제수 제위기 포장고라 되네 차디기 제보라 되네스는 슈버는 포그런디네 다기세 락데 디르 제보라 밥기 뉴르도 달라 절지리 포그런디게 칼라레 대인상 되네 단다 제보기 포장나라 될라 레송 대가라 강 조조가라 나로 치드네 제보라 슈버리 다음에 제베 랍도 년도 난 저거동네 싫어지기도 쓰지 셰엠레바당 젤베엠레바 지나시게
근데 쳐봐지 미시 쳐봐서 가능해서 봐 이때는 단다 대신나 쳐봐나 해 들어간 가서 그냥 미시 쳐봐 주셔야 되지
미시라는 소리부터
단 세워 미시 쳐봐 이기라도 단다 색들이가 단다도 가능해 뭐
다 지금 루이게 샤도네 쳐봐표 나야 리버리 내가 재미리버리 세도지 이마다
알았어 내가 납시기 So when Vishwakarma told Indra the news about the king Bodhisattva King Shivi being and ruling the Jambudvipa, and Indra answered, the king of God answered to Vishwakarma. He said, Indra said, if he is a Bodhisattva, we should first test and then find out whether he's a real Bodhisattva or not. Therefore, let us go to examine him. So Indra told to Vishwakarma, because Vishwakarma said that this king is Bodhisattva, and Indra says, if he's really a king, we should test him first and then find it out whether he's a real Bodhisattva or not. Therefore, let's go and test him. Then how we go? And the Indra said, Vishwakarma, transform yourself into a pigeon. What is different between pigeon and dove? Same, dove, D-O-V-E, dove, or pigeon? Which is better? In Tibetan, we say pugron. So anyway, dove is usually white. I think pigeon is better. In Tibetan, we say pigeon doesn't necessarily mean only white. So I will say pigeon, okay? Because the other book, which was translated from Mongolian, they used the dove, D-O-V-E. I usually use pigeon for this Tibetan word, which we say pugron. So anyway, the Indra said to the Vishwakarma, let us go to check whether this king is a real bodhicitta or not. So we should test him. And the way how we test is, you should transform yourself into a pigeon, and I will transform myself in a, again, this is, I usually translate hawk. But the other book says falcon. So I'm not sure which is better. Anyway, one of the bird that hunt little bird, okay? In Tibetan we say ta. So I usually translate hawk, H-A-W-K. And then other book says falcon, which is fancon. I can't even pronounce. Anyway, you know what I mean. So anyway, Indra said to the Vishwakarma, let's go to check the king whether he's a real bodhisattva or not. Then Vishwakarma, you should transform yourself into a pigeon, and then I will transform into a hawk. Then we pretend that I'm going to kill you. And then let's go to king. You pretend to be running away from me. I pretend to be chasing you. Then you go to the king. Then I will come there together. And they did kind of this kind of meeting or conversation. And Indra said, if he is a bodhisattva, we should first test. Let us go to test and examine him. Transform yourself into a dove or pigeon. I will transform myself into a hawk or falcon, and I will follow you quickly. Go to where the king dwells and take refuge in him. The truth will be realized if you know it. Okay. So when Indra said that, Vishwakarma didn't accept that right away. He said, we should not do that, this kind of things in a great being like Bodhisattva him. We should not. And then Vishwakarma said, Lord of God, it is inappropriate to harm the great beings the Bodhisattva by such difficult things, even it is okay if we make him an offering of human flesh. Then Indra said the following stanzas. Okay, then Indra says, I am not doing it to harm him with a harmful mind. If you taste like a gold, it will be manifest. Therefore, test Bodhisattva or examine Bodhisattva if you want to realize the truth. Indra said that. Then they agreed to do the same thing. Then, after this stanza was spoken by Indra, Vishwakarma transformed himself into a pigeon, and Indra transformed himself into a hawk. The hawk went after the pigeon, chasing, and they pretending that the pigeon was almost caught by the hawk. The pigeon, pretending to be extremely frightened, and entered into the king's armpit here. Armpit, right? Armpit, you say Chenkung. Armpit. And he asked the king for protection for his life. And hawk arrived there right away at the palace and said to the king, thank you, sir. Okay, I have to go a little more. Okay, said to the king, said to the king, and the hawk said to the king, this pigeon is my food to eat. And it descended here to the king's palace. Please give it to me right away, because I am suffering a lot with hunger. I'm almost dying with hunger. Okay, that's it.
Then Shemrabada Chelbe Mreba Koi Gong Dagla Chapsong so Chogla Chir Midang war Dam Chebe. Tangala Chapsel yin sung de Jiyang ye Tangi Mesene, then Damja Narangi Damja, Kelang Jebare. Diyang Mijino, De Inzang, Nipuran de Tegi Mes, Shemrabadang, Yang Temreba. Jelbe sungba 따라 탐지기 잡제도 다 체랑기 탐지 semjen 탐지기 잡제기 나 셰나 갈데 다기 세 마젤나 다장 초와당 델나 다네 칼라데 마데나 나야 뭐게 시기레 도와드나 지 다장 탐지기 나도 마독삼 되네 나 탐지기 나라데네 또 공도를 수요 말에 되는 제베메바 켈라 샤신식 지나삼 테메바 다네 사르도 꿈비 샤름바 치나 첼로 셰메바당 당은 샤사르바 제보기 저랑을 샤신다지 때나 사기인데 되는 나 샤사르바 좀바이나 사기인다 그랬어 Shemrabadang, Jelbo de Dinyamdo Semde, Dedagi Sardo Sebi, Shalumba Shikjarnani, Chik Sete Chik Soa Riba Mainde, Da Shasarva Degona, then Semjenji Sokje Majebala Yo Maredin, Chik Sokje Jenny Chik Sokjab Jebala, Dea Riba Mendo, Samna Kongbashin, Kongshin. Dön medo nyam samne yang de nyamdo semzo da chiksene chikso na dia de merezem da bashigi lu madok bar shen jizam sokdang jeba tamjene sok pangso nyam samne dinembo togde lei shachene chala jinde pogrunge sok luso dene 다 나랑게 루이치분마도 현속라 마방겐 심진치양 요 말에 공내 되네 나람상 디노몰랑네 코랑게 라이 람네 되네 샤제네 푸른라 되네 공소 차라 되네 푸른데 루바레스는 템레바 젤보 케 진덕도 줄다 탐제라 뇽나 다처럼 심진 탐제일라 되네 펜다킨 집 공소 진덕도 보이나 다 자충은 식락장 냠바제 첼웨데 나자 지르당 자충충직더레데 이나양 셈진 탐지기 공도 추바지 내가라 되네 공도 잠바 저와당 잠바 나오라지 선시오는 첼웨 가을에 포르인게 속루나 상기 젤데 냠바제도 설 셈라바당 다 되는데 포르인게 속 저랑 속로 제기나 되는 지체 자네 되는 폭은 기 지체까지 템바 디담 내가 저기 샤딩할 때로지 선정은 제일베 상롱시 제가절데 상기 쿨레르 폭은 샥 상기 시르니 샤제바 뿡나 라이샤 세장 폭은 왜 영어 되네 제일 상레네 되네 지글라 폭은 샤 지글라 콩리기 라네 샤 제네 샤는 라이샤 차도 세나야 다롱 폭은기 지세데 마템반 영어 탁바 니당 지블록 예윤당 류기 샤 세바르 제장 폭은당 냠바르 마주르웨 폭은기 지세데 마템 제일보 되니 생게 상기낭도 도와라 세발레 냠기 마뉴데 더 코나 생네 되니 상낭을 주더je 패데 되니 샤제바디게 되니 류또냠또 메네 되니 주마토바는 마뉴데 살라겔네 젤로 되니 살라 리송아레 된다 데네 링식을 받당 덴바르줄네 양초 대대제네 덴바스네 다게 셈라 되게제 메도스 다 콩리기 투글라 데네 콩리기라다 메락당 통마메비 뒤니 케기 만뉴비 감숨도 거르신 동el 나송용월 줄장 소남기 속수 마줄도 단다바도 동el 넘바 나서번 용요래 이나야 소남기 소수 줄바 기위기 소수 줄바 나직장 두요 말이진 준리 잠비 둘라 밥데 딘장 다더리 인지민지 준리 첨보 잠베기 둘라 바바레 삼네 레로 저위 뒤 마이노 셰 넘바 나서기 거네 제각데 세다 콩리라 전제 줘버제버서래도 개와 통만에 단다버도 동일 박도 매번 용나야 된 여바지에 주비오 말이 다다리 된 여바제 그랬으니까 제각데 데네 베네 데네 상기셔의 농도 침바당 다니 렉소 셰랍도 가웨셈 계속 데네 상나 줄도바는 데네 공라페 메시비 가와 총말에 두글라데 이거
So when king was requested by the hawk that the pigeon be given back to him because he was about to die with the hunger, and the king answered, I cannot give it to you because I have taken a commitment of not sending back whoever come to take refuge in me. So since the pigeon come to me and ask for protection, I cannot give it back to you because I have commitment of protecting them, whoever come and ask protection from me. Then again the hawk said to the king, as you said, if you are protecting everyone and I am not including in everyone, because I will be separated from my life if you don't give me my food back. Which means, I'm just translating literally from the Tibetan because it's a Sokdan Dal. So I say separated from my life, which means I will die if you don't give me my food back, which is pigeon. So if you protect pigeon, why don't you protect me? That's his argument, the hawk. And the king said, will you eat if I give you other meat? And the answer of the hawk was not easy. The hawk says, the falcon or hawk answer, I will eat if it is only newly slaughtered fresh meat. or newly killed fresh meat. Then king thought himself in this way: if I provide a newly slaughtered fresh meat to eat, that will be not appropriate, because one sentient beings would be slaughtered or killed to keep other one alive. It will be meaningless. And without killing one sentient being, there is no way that king can find a newly killed fresh meat to feed the hog. Then the king thought again himself in this way: the only meat I can give to the hog is from my own body, because all lives of others other beings are very precious to them, and I cannot take any meat from other beings but from myself. Then with a sharp knife the king cut some pieces of flesh from his thigh and gave it to the hog. In this way he saved the pigeon. But that was not enough. More difficult is coming here. And then again, after eating the meat that came from the king's thigh, again the hog, because they are testing the king, right? So the hog said to the king, if you are a master of generosity and treat everyone equally, 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 please treat me equally too. The hog says, I'm just a little bird. If you really want to save the life of pigeon, then please give me an equal flesh of the pigeon by measuring on a scales, same weight. And then the king said, okay. And the king ordered right away that the scales be brought. When the scales were brought to measure, then he placed the pigeon on one pan of the scales, and on the other pan he put more meat, which he cut from his thigh. But even all meat or flesh are gone from his thigh, still it was not equal to the pigeon. It was lighter. Pigeon was heavier. And then it was not equal to the pigeon. And then he cut the flesh from his true shoulder, both shoulder. Still it was not equal to the pigeon. And he cut from both his ribs, the right and left. Tibetan is Sima is rib, and Ayun is right and left both. Even after that, all flesh from his entire body has been cut out. It was still not equal to the pigeon. Then the king stood up and tried to put his whole body, which actually only the bones are left, on the scale. Somehow, since his body was so weak that he fell down on the ground and passed out, or fainted, same meaning, right? Passed out. And after a quite long time, he became again conscious, or he found his mind back. Then he himself, he belittled himself, saying in this way, because to his mind, the king says, because of your weakness, I have been wandering in the three realms from the beginningless time, and went through the experiences of various suffering, but they have never been for accumulating merit. Now the time for being diligent has come, and it is not a time for laziness. And in this way, he reproached his mind in various ways. Then with great effort, king placed himself on one of the pans of scales. After that, he thought it was excellent, and he had an extremely joyful mind.
남사 남바 죽도 예배 하남게 포장양 굴신 대과줄대 되다 Sukamgi Laigi Potang de Soyantene Gulwaran Sagan. Sugi Kamgi La Menje Tamje Lagne Tengi Banang La Kudo. Hadizo Deni, Lai Potang Gulu Hadizo Karena, the Namdasan Le Deni, the Mahago, Deni, Sukam La Menje Tamje Deni, Jebugi Potangi Tengi Namhala Lemne Kunam. Changzhou Senbe Shinlo Kawa Jejing Lu Jiang Den Marongbar Jede Chögi Che Lu Dang Songla Midawar Juri Ngobo Dedak Tongne Chima Charshindo Sakjin Ngude Hadege Medok Charshindo Pamne Choba Jeso De Tsena Jajingi Ngengi Lusu Jurde Dene Jebo Korang Zumri De Shikne Lai Wangba Jajing Zumri Tar Jurbe Zumri Shikne Lai Wangba Sukdene Jelbola dige jemneson jelbe ditabe 신도 까와제바 디 지식시 다 저랑기 된데 까와자베디 레와 되바 가레예신 콜레주리 제보 되바 여르베 토비야기 되바 여르베 양나 해용바 제진 토비야기 되바 여르베 양나 뒤기 제보 걸어본지다보 토비야 되바 여르베 야나 감숨기 왕보 신다 감숨기 제보 토베기 되바이 담센팀 지시 제메바당 가리 되바이 세네 라바당 장조 셈베메바 덕 되바니 덕 되바니 감기 체증기 롱제 되바 마인기 다 되바디 지딩기 감기 되네 제 감숨기 되네 공조 년적 된데 되바 말에 선남 지제장 라나메베 장주대도 나랑게 선남기 초삭세 탐지 라나메바 조베 장주도 베기 제도 사기 제진기 메바 대다를 류식징 마롱바르 제대 리벌라 토비 동일 용어를 주로 딜라 미제담세 메바당 저런데는 되네는 강을 대점진용을 제바메 깨마성에 된대 제르베 제바메도 셰메서 저징게 메바 제바메 제메 메기 다다를 류 더싱 데글라 꼭 체바점도 마양 많이 발라 때나 제바 메바 지 제바 줄 저랑 제바 메세네 칸에 랍게 요래데 이네 류 세네 더식 잡 동엘 설라 메바 델라타나 세네 제바 메바디 이치기 멘도 제르베 메바 덕 통만에 담에 바도 담아다되게 바도 바부 냥마 잠기 주베 메라 다 바부 냥마 잠기 세면 주바양게 메세 덕 지당 지되바 된 미서와 줍데 레비 칙디 데나 당에 시베기 칙디 데마이나 덴비 칙레베 다기 류데 나호신도 마메바 주르지 제메마 타도 젤베 류 응외장 학바르 상버 주르데 타당 미 직된도 제바 탐지 거구 랑네 ngoser 메도 주르도
So when the king thought it was excellent and he had an extremely joyful mind, at that time the earth and sky shook in 6 ways. This is a very direct translation of Tibetan word. Okay? Sa and nam, number to the yo. So usually when we say shook the space, there's no way the space shook, right? So what it means is usually the palaces of the God form God's realm. Usually we says when we're talking about the 12 realms, Rupa Dhatu, Arupa Dhatu, and Kama Dhatu, and then this is in English we says the desire realm, form realm, and formless realm. So usually we say form realms, palaces are located in the space. So when you say the space shook, means our temple means the palace of these shooks. Then earth is earth, it can be shook, right? Shaken, shaken. So anyway, the sutra says at that time, the earth and sky shook in six ways. The palaces of the devas shook and trembled. The devas all the way from the Rupadhatu or form realm came and remained in the space, seeing Bodhisattva going through tremendous hardship and giving his body and life for the sake of Dharma. The devas shed tears like rain, and they made offering of celestial flowers, descending them as a rain in the Jambudvipa. At that time, Indra transformed back to his real body and became an Indra, because before he was a hawk, a falcon. At that time, Indra transformed back to his own body and said to the king, "King, why are you conducting such hardship? Are you practicing it in order to achieve the state of Chakravardin?" Or Chakravardin is Kolugirbi in Tibetan, it's Sanskrit Chakravardin, and in English, I don't know whether if there is really equivalent word or not, but sometimes people use a universal monarchy and so forth. But if you know the Chakravardin, this is better, because it has a deeper meaning. Anyway, Indra said to the king, "Are you practicing this kind of hardship in order to achieve the state of Chakravardin, or the state of Indra, or the state of the king of Mara, Garak Wangshu, or simply the lord of three realms? What do you want?" And the Bodhisattva king answered, "What I want is not the greatness of enjoyment of the three realms, which means I'm not looking for anything in samsara. Whatever merit I do it in order to achieve the unsurpassable enlightenment or unsurpassable bodhi." So, bodhi or enlightenment. Indra said to the king, "Don't you feel any regret by going through so much hardship and experiencing so much suffering by destroying your whole body until only the bones are left?" The king said, "I have no regret." The Indra said, "How can I believe you, even though you said you have no regret, when I see how much suffering and pain you are going through? Your whole body is shaking. You can't even talk properly, and you are almost dead." The king answered, "If I have no mind of regret, even as tiny as a hair on my body, from the very beginning of this conduct up to the end right now, whatever I wish for would be accomplished without any doubt. If what word I said is true, the words of the truth has been spoken, therefore may my body become as before without any wounds." As soon as these words were said by the king, the body of the king became even better than before. And everyone in the worlds of Deva and human became amazed and happy, and they rejoiced with great happiness.
That's it. 좀 전에 메도 줄도 대세 대주나 절보 시비니 다다라 상제 락데 좀 전에는 대비주나 양 샘젠 몽벨레도 꾸셀라 마싱나 다 좀 전에 최기 점선의 용수 쪽 최기 제선의 쟁 최기 나양 랍도 둥 최기 전매양 셀월 제대 펜바던 대위된 제비주라 법나 지레도 최장 마된 바로 샘젠 탐제 용소 땅의 양엔 레다워 공세 당에만 상 마지기 버도 녜말라데네 디나신 샘젠기 돈도 디나신 까와접다 상제자 샘빙이 된 루브렌데 되네 간제네 저런 최기 콜롬 샘젠기 된 맞아 양엔 레다워 공바시기 세네다 되고 대세나 창비절로 대신식비 쟁아를 텔마 자르데 대신식비 능기 구체를 취지더절와당 심진계례도 우동 점양 당월 줄도 시행학생 떼바 제소 회원배 제진기 되는 떼바 배원 대세나 좀 된데기 창비절부 설바 신도 낭와제네 율와라 나세리덕 라 미지바 진비 내소 식니 최기 콜로 꼬르도 되네 상배 세기 콜로 집동분의 최기 콜로 꼬라 소란 따바 신도 셀기 신네 되네 율와라나스 페네 최기 콜로 꼬르와레 대다를 최기 콜로 꼬르에 근적 수면 직된 농원솜도 줄도 질 최기 콜로 꼬르발라 되네 직딩이 겁나단다 근적 숨기 다 퇴야 건조숨 슈기어바 디 같은데 대세 대개제 숭내 하당 미당 루당 뇌진당 라마인 대제 라소바 탐제 엄마르가네 제수 죄도 다 탐제되는 제수 예랑네 되네 제보디 제보 12기 전에 건도 죄람 가리 제바 디 제수 죄바 대당 팀바 제수 죄바 배 나속된 벨류 대 당보 다 대기 때문에 또 장는 게 류 당보 대처는
So actually here completed the history of the King Shivi, and again now the devas of the Brahma realm are informing Buddha, saying that at that time, at that moment, the King Shivi was you, Buddha, you. And Bhagavan, in the past, you have done so much without caring for yourself. In order to benefit many people, many sentient beings. And then now, now now the ocean of Dharma is completed in you, and the banner of the Dharma is hosted or erected, and now the Dharma of drum is beaten. Now the light of Dharma is also lightened. And then now is the time to benefit sentient beings. Why? Why, without teaching Dharma to sentient beings, you want to enter into parinirvana? So this is related at the very beginning of the sutra, okay? You have to remember that. At that time, so when Buddha was told by the gods of Deva realm, actually the king of the Brahma came, and then with the Anjali Mudra in front of the Tathagata, and then he praised, the king of Brahma realm praised to the Buddha, saying that in the many past time, in order to sentient beings, you have even given up 1,000 head of yourself. And then you have, when so many, in this way he praises. And at that time, then Buddha, the Bhagavan, permitted, as he was requested by the king of Brahma and the devas of Rama. So, and he went to the Varanasi, Saranath. We call Saranath. This is the name of the Saranath. Then he turned the wheel of Dharma. And then, because Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma, and the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, manifested in our world. At that time, when Buddha said that, and the Deva, human, Naga, Yaksha, and Asura or Deva god, and so forth, all they rejoiced and follow the way how Buddha taught. And this is called the chapter of presenting various metaphors. And this is the first chapter of the Sutra of Wise and Foolish. We completed tonight here. And now we do the Sakya Nedolma.
Tene ta di liu di sungwe jumsen zhobo zo zhobo je kare se na tangba tene che la gumbe gi du shi xiao go do chik di re do tene che la gumbe gi du shi me na tene zun zhui ge do ge ma ya che da ga di je na che cho yo re ga di ne zhu cho jo re tene zun zhui dong do nang jung tu gi yo ma re di zang tene do nang dang zun zhui ke tubyagi chedola chola kembegi dushi tene yang nipa de chola rinhang chewegi dushi tene chola rinhang chewegi dushi mena tene dela kanzo de yongge yomara tsiguru 저보다 철라 대바 매규 주구를 용기요 말에 대인상 철라 대바 매규 주구를 매나 진압주기요 말에 되네 진압주의하기 제도라 대바 매규 주구를 거고요 대 제도라 되네 철라 린당 치위기 뒤신샤고 되네 대나신 철라까지 닝르 되네 거기 여백이 되네 뒤시 뒤속에 강서 나랑서기 줄게 체도 되네 좀전소 대속이 체도 되는 송반말을 삼.
So from this chapter, as an essence of the teaching, what we should understand is, I think there are 3 points. The first, that we should always have a notion of how rare the Dharma is. Otherwise, we would never think we should be diligent practicing Dharma, because we say we can do any time. So actually, Dharma is very rare, and we should understand that. And the second is how precious Dharma is, because without knowing the preciousness of Dharma, we will not have the proper respect, and we will not have proper devotion, and we wouldn't have proper faith to the Dharma. And without respect, devotion, and faith, and there is no way that we can receive any blessing from the Dharma. Therefore, it is very important for us to have the notion of preciousness of the Dharma all the time. And then, third is also, it is sometimes necessary to go through little hardship in order to practice genuinely the Dharma. So I think these are the 3 points that the reason why this chapter was taught. It was taught for us to understand these 3 important points. We should have always the notion of how rare Dharma is, and we should have the notion of understanding how precious the Dharma is, and also we should understand it is important for us if it's necessary to go through the hardship in order to practice the genuine Dharma. Lasso, okay, we are done for teaching today, and we do quickly the practice of Sajjana Dharma. Ma namga da nyambe samye tamje lama sangye rinpo shala gyatsan shao sangye shodan genden namla gyatsan shao lama yedam khandra sola gyatsan Rasem dosa chige gola gyatsan shewo ma namga da nyambe samye tamje lama sangye rinpo shala gyatsan sangye shodan genden namla gyatsan shao lama yedam khandra sola gyatsan Rasem dosa Jige gola gyatsan shewo ma namkwa da nyambe samje tamje lama sangye rinpo chala gyatsan sangye chudan gende namla gyatsan sha lama yedam khandra sola gyatsan rasen dosa jige gola gyatsan shewo man be mo 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 o man be mo 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 man Omane bemoman 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 Omane beme le da loya boragele gyorvaye tenda ne da jon bese wayaso semje ye me deve ne nam ga jine kham so joya waraya mai garaji chedra she me chebe se jaji keje la le zandran jebe soro ne ge do ma Jiden kam so joya waraya mai garaje chedarshin kaya nayan se bayandara nege me zan tebe tajebe Nyeje bayada daya berem soygim Tuje gula ne baraya mai garaje ne bengere don range joyada lobra ye ro son ya ro joyada shibya zaye ne la so mai le jengala se waraya mai garaje le zande wa mai lu troje be jongje trobe do ngai je ba ma lo ye da do de ba da serene me de ge de barajo lama gonjo son ge do je da khando she gyon son me no ya do da lende lo wa me be de do ge mo ma la da se ya do barajo ya lama gonjo son ge do je da khando she gyon son me no do da lende lo wa me be de do ge mo ma la da se ya do barajo ya lama gonjo son ge do je da khando che gyon son me no do da le de lo wa me be de do ge mo ma la da se ya do barajo. Now the long life prayer of His Holiness and the prayer for spreading the Dharma. Oi jago ni je rang so karma ba jago tele ji don karma jago don so wang go karma o yin do don tele sha de so si ji ban je ma lu jung wei xie te be dan ba ye de ne ba den zi ji bi ge wo dan ban ban je ju ge ye de sha de so shu ma xian bo da ye ne dong ma sam jian ta ji shu ga Now our regular dedication prayer and the auspicious prayer. Sonam de tam je ze ba nyen thom ne nye ben dan nam pham je ye ga na je ba la tru ba se be zo len ro ro re jo jam bol ba wa je dre ken ba da kon do sam bo te ya de yin de da gun je je so da lo jin ge wan de da dan ta do mo san ge ku sum nye be se la da chen ye me ge de be se la Gende Mejen Dembe Sinla Chidrango Molan Drobarai Jo Duji Lejan Jagan Tenle Ban Karma Baden Tembe Himbo Chodo Gunja Chabjen Yume Tabo Ramba Bebe Tai Yo Dani Gewa Tamje Do Nyame Tabo Gajut Chepara Balden Karma Ba Chizo Gendo Mendra Yo
Good night.